Right, on the 10th of May 1940, the German army invaded the Netherlands, and on the 15th, 5 days later, the Dutch signed the unconditional surrender. Now, you can consider that a fairly quick knockout blow, but was it really? Were there any Dutch successes during these tumultuous days in May 1940? In this video, I'm going to explain you the times the Dutch were effective during the German invasion of the Netherlands. Hey, good to have you back. Welcome to the channel once again. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name is Stefan and welcome to History Hustle. I'm a history teacher from the Netherlands and I'm hustling history for you. And if you like this content, then I encourage you to watch another video. And if you like that one as well, then please consider subscribing and also hit the notification bell to join the hustle. Let's start. Blowing up the bridges. So let's start this time all the way in the south of the Netherlands, at the province of Limburg, with its main city of Maastricht. Now, the city of Maastricht is built on both sides of the Meuse River. And the Dutch were ordered that if the Germans would attack, they had to blow up the two bridges, the Wilhelminabrug and the Sint-Servaasbrug. The Germans, they sent out several infiltration patrols to defuse the demolition charges that were placed at the bridges. Now, most of these patrols were intercepted and arrested. I have to tell you one story about one patrol. Alright, so one of these patrols consisted of one German NCO and 6 Dutch civilians, collaborators who worked together with the Germans. And they arrived in Maastricht at the evening on the 9th of May, actually one day before the German invasion of the Netherlands took place. Now, they were pretty nervous for this job, so they decided to go for a drink. But a drink became many drinks. And when it was 3:30 in the morning and it was time to act, these men were all totally wasted. 2 of them managed to go out. However, they were spotted by suspicious civilians who warned the authorities. Soldiers came in and arrested the men. However, one of these men drew a pistol and he was shot. Then, when it was the 10th of May, German armed vehicles made it through the east side of Maastricht, and some of them were knocked out by Dutch anti-tank rifles. When the Germans arrived at the bridges, they found out these bridges had been blown up, and on the other side of the river there were the Dutch defenders who were firing at the Germans who tried to cross the river by rubber boats. Eventually, these scattered Dutch troops had to surrender. According to historian Brongers, the Dutch caused some severe delay on their advance towards the Belgian fortress of Eben-Emael, which was located fairly close to the Dutch-Belgian border. Now, in the grand scheme of things, Dutch actions at Maastricht didn't make a big change, but you can consider it a success. And the same happened at the IJssel Line, which was the first Dutch line of defense. Several German patrols were intercepted by alert Dutch border guards. A few of them made it through, only to see the IJssel bridges had been blown up in front of them. The Dutch troops who were stationed on the other side of the IJssel River, they performed some delaying fire and retreated according to plan. It costed the Germans a substantial amount of bridge material in order to cross the IJssel River, since all the bridges had been blown up. But again, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't cause a very big delay. Yet, the Dutch soldiers at the IJssel had done their bit. The battle at Scherpenzeel. Meanwhile, the defenders at the Grebbe Line, they prepared themselves for the engagement with the enemy. As you may know, the Germans attacked at the Grebbeberg, but they kept their options open. And one of the alternatives was an attack at the Dutch town of Scherpenzeel, which was also located at the Grebbe Line. And this attack was actually carried out. It had to be carried out on the early morning of the 13th of May. However, because of effective Dutch artillery fire, the Germans could advance in the afternoon. Also, they had no support of an SS regiment that was previously at their side but was redirected through North Brabant. The German 227th Infantry Division attacked at Scherpenzeel. They managed to capture the town. However, they were held back by Dutch artillery fire, machine gun fire and mines, and they couldn't be reinforced, and soon they had to pull back. The Dutch cooperation between infantry and artillery at Scherpenzeel had been superb, as a Dutch officer from the 15th Regiment Infantry wrote in his diary, "The position is still fully intact, the morale of the men is excellent, and we keep holding off the enemy." Another smaller attack carried out by 200 German soldiers was performed at the town of Ochten, also at the Grebbe Line. Also here, the Germans failed to push through. Ironically, did you know that I recorded my graduation film at a reconstructed trench near Scherpenzeel, which was the place where the battle I just talked about taken place. If you want to see my graduation film, go to my Patreon page, links are in the description. The Battle of the Afsluitdijk. So far, we've seen successful retreats and true repellings of a German attack. But did you know that in May 1940, the Dutch also won a battle? And this happened at the Afsluitdijk. Now, the Afsluitdijk was a major dam and causeway that was built in the interwar years and connected the two Dutch provinces of Friesland and North Holland. Now, the German plan of attack was to make its way through Friesland in order to cross the Afsluitdijk to get into North Holland. Now, at the Frisian side of the Afsluitdijk, there was a settlement called Korenwerderzand, and there the Dutch had built several casemates. These casemates first came under fire by bombing from the air and then by German howitzer fire, but these casemates proved to be too strong. When the Germans tried to attack across the Afsluitdijk, they were met by heavy machine gun fire and they had to retreat. The Afsluitdijk remained in Dutch hands till the surrender on the 15th of May. The Battle of Den Haag, also known as the Slag om de Residentie. The Germans, they had an ambitious plan. They made use of German paratroopers, the so-called Fallshirmjäger, and also airlanding troops. So the paratroopers, they came from an airplane, they opened up their parachute and landed in order to perform their mission. And the airlanding troops were basically troops inside a plane. The plane would take off from Germany, land in the Netherlands, the troops get out, and the plane would preferably get up again to get another batch of soldiers. Now, their goal was to move to The Hague and then capture the Queen, the government and the Army High Command. You can call this some kind of a checkmate. German paratroopers and air landing troops were dropped near the Dutch airfields of Ypenburg, Ockenburg and Valkenburg. The Dutch defenders at Ypenburg were totally surprised by what happened, and they rushed to their machine guns and they started to fire at the German planes that landed on their airstrip. Now, many of these German planes caught fire and they couldn't get back up again. Over 1,000 German troops got captured by the Dutch. The remaining German units fled, and since the defenders had blocked the way to The Hague, the Germans didn't reach that city, let alone capture the Queen and government. Some German scattered units, among which commanding officer von Sponeck was with, managed to hold out till the Dutch surrender and were never captured. In any case, we can definitely say that the Dutch army here was effective, especially because the troops that were located around these airfields weren't the best trained ones, because these were located at the front line, at the Grebbe Line. I remembered a couple of years ago, I spoke to a Dutch veteran and he was stationed near The Hague, and he had his baptism of fire there, and it was also the very first time he actually fired his rifle. Some viewers, they might credit the Dutch Marines who performed at the Battle of Rotterdam. This is also due to the mythical status the Dutch Marines gained after the war. Stories about how Dutch Marines crossed the Meuse River by swimming with a dagger between their teeth and fought the Germans hand to hand, and how Germans spoke of these Dutch Marines as the Schwarzen Teufel, as the Black Devils, since their uniforms were dark blue. But these stories have been most likely exaggerated. Nevertheless, the Marines fought heroically at Rotterdam. And that can be said about a lot of Dutch soldiers. See, most Dutch people thought that neutrality was our safeguard once again. See, for the Belgians it was like, okay, here we go again. For the Dutch, it was a shock. And then it turned out that the invasion was done after just 5 days. many Dutch soldiers, they had to surrender without firing a shot, without seeing the enemy, only when it was already over. This was a huge humiliation for them. Think of the soldiers that fought at the Hague, the Afsluitdijk, or at Scherpenzeel. They had actually repelled the German attacks. Still, they had to surrender and they had lost the war. Now, some people became cynical of this, and this is mostly due to the chaotic rout that occurred at the concluding stage of the Battle of the Grebbeberg. And they argue that all Dutch soldiers had immediately thrown their weapons away and surrendered. And this obviously is not the case. On the flip side, the Dutch performances during May 1940 shouldn't be exaggerated either. Some people argue that the Dutch did have a chance, but this is very unlikely. Hey, thanks to my Patreons, and a special thanks to Henry Clarkson, Koen Castleman, the President, Michael Mozart, Wombat Cookie. If you want to know more about the Battle of the Grebbeberg I just spoke about, you can click right here. If you want to know more about German effectiveness during their invasion of the Netherlands, you can click right here. Please consider becoming a Patreon, because with your donations I can make better, cooler and more awesome content for you. Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe, and groetjes thuis.